Welcome to the Disability Adventures podcast. I'm Andrea Anderson.
And I'm Chip Dodd from Team Disability.
All right, we're here with Team Awesome Sauce. They just completed the Adventure Racing World Championship 2024 in Ecuador. It was a great race. You probably listened to our last podcast. And one thing that I want to say first that we did not say in our last podcast is we wanted to thank Santiago and his race organization for such a fabulous race. We really had a great time. I can't wait to hear about your all's experience. And thank you also to all of the volunteers. There were so many volunteers and so much safety staff and support. It really felt like that we were safe and taken care of. So anyway, we're going to start off. Jesse, you might remember from a previous podcast, he raced the Florida C2C as disability with Lewis Beckdash. And so he's been on the podcast before. And we really wanted to let's hear from you first of how your team came together for this race. And we'll start with you.
Yeah, awesome. So I probably started this dream back watching you all in South Africa last year in Worlds and having the biggest case of FOMO ever of watching all the procession beforehand and then running up the hill and then just, dot watching. But it just seemed like an incredible experience before, during, and after all the festivities and the tours and everything. And so it just it seemed like something that I had to be part of. And there are levels to this game where you can go like a C2C and you can go to the next thing, a 5-day race and so on. And I just decided I'm just gonna pull my arrow back as far as I can and shoot for the top and see what happens. So
love it.
Yeah, so I started recruiting pretty early on, right around the New Year's at the beginning of this year. Went through all my local contacts who I typically race with. It was sort of too big of a thing, too fast probably for a lot of my regular teammates, and then just gradually started building, extending the net a little bit wider. People I knew, that who I knew, they knew, and on and out, and then eventually put it out on Adventure Race Teammate Finder Facebook page, and that's when JD reached out and he was like, hang on, you've already paid, you've got a team, you're already established. He's like, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's meet each other and do a little bit of the courting process and figure out who are. But JD is like, once you meet him, he's like a golden retriever who just rushes up and is like, we already know each other. We love each other. We're going to do this. It's happening. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
And he will lick your face.
I was just saying, and smell your butt same time.
And smell your butt. Yeah, that's JD.
It's kind of like bend over. This is required.
So
Have you met JD before he became part of the team?
No,
never.
The only thing I'd ever known about JD was seeing pictures of his feet from other races that were nightmares, and then hearing just wild stories from the JD antics. But the dude's got a big body of work on YouTube, JD TV, so it's real easy to be a quick study of that. And then so JD brought Tom along with him, like, hey, I've already got a guy. We're awesome. We're gonna do this. Let's find a female to race with. And so we were really putting that out there for a while for some women that I knew. Megan was unavailable because she was going to do the Malaysia race that they got free entry into, but then that sort of fell through, and she popped up, and that was the team, and then we finished up with like weekly Zoom calls to build our team culture, fast and furious.
That's awesome. So remind our listeners what's your background, and then we'll kind of do a round robin. You guys can all introduce yourselves.
I started racing in 2007, mostly smaller, 12, 24, up to 36-hour races. Raced for about 17 years, only domestically in the US. Went through child rearing years and kind of came away from it, but last 3 years, came back into it furiously. And then just, yeah, I got the bug with Luis in C2C with the multi-day thing. And yeah, haven't looked back.
Okay, I think we're going to go in order of experience. I think we'll see if I'm right. Megan, why don't you go next? Introduce yourself and tell us your background with racing.
So yeah, I'm Megan, and I really got started into adventure racing with COVID because, of course, I watched the Eco Challenge and totally geeked out staring at it, binge watched, and was like, I need to do this. This is something that I would love to do. I need to go do this. And talked to my sister because she's normally my partner in crime with these things, and we kind of like find things and like sign up for them. And I was like, hey, how about this? You want to go, race across Florida for 3 days? Because why not start with a 3 day adventure race if we're gonna do it? Might as well go big. Considering neither one of us really rode our bikes more than like 30 miles at a time, it was a eye opener and a very painful experience in the end, but it was awesome. And I then started doing some more local stuff and a couple shorter races, but I really enjoy the overnights. Like I really enjoy just being out and away, disconnected, and experiencing the world sans maps and GPS, and just the fun of finding the flags is kind of like I always talk about people like it's a treasure hunt. And why not take a multi-day treasure hunt through the woods? It's really good. The experiences that you have, the challenges that you face, they're just completely unexpected. Like, all right, yeah, we got this. We can figure this out. Um, so yeah, the prior to that I was doing a lot of rucking and barbell work because my sister does a lot with barbell. And so with COVID, I was like, we're gonna work out in her gym and try to get buff that way. And then started rucking because that was another event that was open. Those events were out open during COVID time. So anything I could do to get outside and be around people. But adventure racing is kind of the thing that really gives me the most joy out of all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, was this your longest race?
I think yes. So I think it's borderline because Alaska was also 5 days, right? And this one got shortened, but it was set up to be my longest. Yeah. So I think it's about on track with what my longest was, but maybe slightly longer. Yeah.
Okay, cool. How about you, Tom? Tell us about your history.
Well, okay, Tom Ambrose. Yeah, so my first race was actually when the C2C was called the Coast to Coast, and that was around 2006, I want to say. And
Wow.
a friend of mine, we never had raced, and we said, "Hey, let's do this thing." It's a 3 day race or whatever. So that was my first race. I got like immersed into it at that point and kind of fell in love with it. And so there was a series in Florida, and we did that as well, and with some other teammates. And there was a lot of people just switching around or whatever. So I got to meet a lot of people who race and who just enjoy it, and ended up doing the Primal Quest in South Dakota. That was at the time my longest race, and then I've done Expedition Idaho 1 and 2, and then Expedition Alaska, the first one. And then we did the Eco Challenge in Fiji. Actually, I was with AR Georgia doing that one. So, and yeah, and that was a 12-day race technically. But yeah, so this one was pretty fun.
That's really cool that Megan's geeking out about
I know.
watching Ego
I got
Challenge
the right to this
Fiji.
celebrity.
Yeah, and then just a couple years later, she's on a team with someone who raced in that show. That's
And
really
Yeah,
JD has
awesome.
done.
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, so I was not sure if Tom or JD had more experience, but we do know
JD
that
does.
JD was inducted into the Adventure Racing Hall of Fame at the World Championship. It was so cool to hear his name called,
Yep.
especially after hearing quite a few stories. We got to know JD a little bit better because we got to spend some time before the race in Ecuador, acclimatizing and touring around. And same with Jesse, he joined us a little bit later to take a bus ride down from Quito to Cuenca. So it's always fun to get to know everyone a little bit better. Like we never want it to end and we want it to last as long as possible, the whole experience. But JD, why were you inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I I don't know. It actually caught me off surprise. I almost fell out of my chair. And I don't know. I guess I've been at it for a quarter century, 25 years, and raced around the world. And I don't know. It was pretty cool. It was surprising to me. And I don't know. I guess if you live long enough, this is gonna happen.
Yeah, but
Well,
they did like over 100 races,
Yes.
110.
Probably 100 expeditions.
I don't know. You lose. It's like after 3 days in expedition rate, you lose track of sunsets or sunrises, right? Like I don't know. I've been there. Like look at my passport stamps. Oh yeah, been there, been there.
yeah. And you had
So
also raced the World Championship when it was in Ecuador 10 years ago, or not?
so the ironic part of that was I was there 10 years ago, which is keto has literally grown so much since then because all the PR and the flag parade and all that was right in Old Town San Francisco, Keto, where we went and played around after the race with Lewis, and such a different vibe. And the way that cookie crumbled was I was 2014. I was in Germany, but I was racing in America because had like 3 months off, so I just did every 2 weeks expedition. And this team from California had a guy fall out. So I just packed up. I got a hold of him, said, yeah, I'll be there. So I show up with my bike, all my gear, ready to race, just coming from like Raid the North or the Gold Rush in California, something like that. And I get there, and this guy all of a sudden changed his mind and shows up.
Oh,
So
Wow.
I was there, and I'm like,
that's
literally the day before the race, I did the flag parade, and that photo that's on the website, that's my flag in front of the old church. But I never raced.
Wow.
So I went with Pedro, the Pedro that you know from Portugal. Him and I volunteered, and they had us going around. And I think I worked harder than racing. It was like volunteering, staying away for 33 hours at a checkpoint by myself, stuff like that. So I was there 10 years ago, but I did not race. That's how that cookie crumbled. I'm like, well, apparently I'm volunteering.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, literally paid my own flight, brought everything there, and they switched the gears on me. I'm like,
That's
like I get paid to kill people for less than this.
Well, to quote you in the weeks before the race, Gumby, you got to be
Yes.
flexible, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
You
one of your catchphrases is Gumby.
Right.
Got to be flexible.
Gumby. Exactly. Like the SNL, like, oh no, Mr. Bill, Gumby. Yeah, totally.
So,
You got to be that way.
tell me, how soon did you guys feel like a team? Like I know we dropped off JD and Jesse at your Airbnb, and a few days later we're racing. So that was the first time you guys had all come together in person. And tell us about how your team formed, when you started feeling like a team, and what roles did you guys have? And you want to start us, Jesse?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I just felt like this was the ultimate hoop jumping contest of all hoop jumping contests, from baggage embargoes to the changing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking
All of that.
oh, Jesse. So tell me what you had to do with the pack raft, you and Megan, for the embargo.
Yeah. So we were, I'll just say the big summary is we were troubleshooting for weeks out from this race, still not knowing if it was going to happen. Everything we'd solve a problem, and then there'd be the next one and the next one and the next one. So like we were talking actually with Chip and Andrea about maybe they could take a pack raft for us with their extra bag allocation, or Megan and I ended up shipping our rafts to Tom because his wife Jenny was going, and but every little thing, and then Megan's bike showed up, and won't steal her thunder with that story, but it was all jacked up. So we were problem solving for weeks out up until basically the gun went. And that formed our team ethos of like we're already in it right now, and we haven't even started.
Yeah, it's I think sometimes shocking like how much preparation it takes and how just involved it all is. Every little thing matters. Like if you don't have a working bike, what do you do? So Megan, what happened with your bike?
So I've had some bike trouble this year, period. Went to
Oh, wow.
Alaska and my bike didn't make it, and had to rent and then borrow a bike when my bike did show up and it was broken. Had a bike break on me in nationals, and then I was just like, I'm in keto, the box is here. I go to the box, it's already upside down. I'm like, something's gonna happen. So flip the box over, open it up, and there's the back wheel and the hub and the pieces just all laying there on the bottom of the box. I was just like,
Oh,
I
Wow.
almost cried. I was like, this cannot be happening. Like I went through so much to get this bike and another bike ready for Ecuador. Just I had two, so if one broke right before I was going to be ready with the second bike, and just I was devastated. And so Tom, he worked his magic, found the pieces that we needed, and figured it all out. And then the next day we went into keto, and a wonderful cab driver from the airport drove us around for I don't know an hour or 2 hours, and we finally found a bike shop that could help us out. And they could get us the piece, but not that day. So they were next day airing it to our Airbnb in Cuenca. And so I was like, okay, well, there's that. Plus, while all of this was going on, and Tom and I were troubleshooting because he and I flew in from Miami. Jenny, and I flew in on the same flight from Miami. So we were staying in the hotel and keto. So all three of us were working on it. We put this out to JD and Jesse, and I think they had everybody on your tour working on it as well. So
yeah.
lists of bike shops and everything. My dad was texting me, "Hey, these places in Cuenca have good reviews." All the way from Indiana, everybody was working on it. But yeah, it was very terrifying. So when we found Crank in um, Cuenca that again didn't have the part but could get it the next day. And so we were like, okay, between the airlifted airship part and this one, hopefully we'll get a bike that works. And yeah, I mean, I was so overjoyed when Jesse's like, we're at checking in. He's like, here, come here for a second. I want to show you something. He's like, just sit down, just sit down. And I'm sitting here going, all right, why is he asking me to sit down? And then he shows me the video, or was it the video or a text on your phone of the bike being ready? And I was just like, we can race. I have a bike. So I
Yeah.
had one ready to rent if that one didn't work. I was ready to rent one for the week. So it was just, yeah, I was really grateful to be on my bike for this event and have a
Yeah.
whole team of people working to
So
make
you
sure
had
this was
plan B and C already,
good. Yeah.
ready to go if you needed
Sorry.
it.
Yeah, it was great. It was that was part of the problem solving is we had backup on backup um to make sure that we were going to be successful. So that was wonderful.
And shout out
Yeah.
to Luis Bekdash who hooked us up with the Crank Bike Shop in
Yeah.
Cuenca.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like getting work, texting back and forth part numbers, and he's getting in touch with the shop. And anyways, it took a village, but we got there.
Yeah, another thing in our last podcast that we should have said was thank you to Louis Bekdash. I think he helped all of our teams out so much. He was pretty much our
Oh, yeah.
our
Totally.
Ecuadorian ambassador, liaison,
Tour guide,
tour guide, communicator,
translator,
translator. Yeah. Oh, just so
and
helpful.
Andrea.
And his
And
wife,
I was just gonna
Andrea.
say, and mom, Andrea. I didn't even get
Yeah.
to
Yeah, yeah.
spend as much time as they did, but she was definitely an amazing help.
Yeah. And Jenny too.
Mhm.
Jenny,
Yeah.
Tom's wife, was volunteering
She
at the
was there.
race. And
Yeah.
thank you to Jenny. Tom, what was that like having her around? And did you see her often during the race?
I didn't see her often enough, but it's always a blast. Like all those races I had done, Expedition Idaho 1 and 2 and Alaska and a bunch of other ones. She was my teammate, my core teammate, right? And I always just love having her there and have her pull me along. But yeah, because of her back operation, she couldn't race, and that's why she's more my groupie and support right now. But no, it's pretty awesome. But unfortunately, we had other plans. Right, she was going to rent a car and a bicycle, and then kind of follow us around as much as she could without interfering with the race. And as it turns out, we went to go check in to get the car, and they wanted to extort like twice as much as the rental amount for insurance. And because they said other insurances don't matter and whatever. And it was like, all right, we just said, forget it. Oh, I like that background, Jesse. Anyway.
Yeah, there it is.
And we saw that on the road on day 6.
Isn't that cool? It's the heart, Jenny. And isn't with the 43 in there. And that's cool.
Okay.
There was a couple
the heart.
Our listeners who are not watching on YouTube need to hear about this, but
okay.
Jesse just changed his background picture to a heart and the number 43 made out of rock.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why you did that, but you can tell me in a second. But I know that was your team number. We came across your rocks, and I just watched our video because we're getting ready to hopefully put it out there soon, but doing some editing. And I took a video of finding your rocks there, and we're like, oh, they must be right in front of us. We hope we can see them. It felt like a neat little message to the world that you are doing well.
Yes. So, we actually had comments from a few different teams, a French team, and I know the girl didn't speak very much English, but she was just oh, mi amor, and she was so excited and enamored by seeing our number in the heart, and she says, "Oh, that was your wife," and I'm like, "Well, yes,"
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Jenny's our 5th teammate.
Yeah, she is. Absolutely.
Like we keep looking behind us, and like, is she behind us? And then there's hearts in front of us. Like, I know she's here
in front
somewhere.
of us.
She's
in front
of us.
It up.
It definitely
pick it up.
felt
She's
weird.
like, pick it up.
I kept looking for her on the trail too. I was like, "Oh, where's Jenny? Oh, wait, yeah, she's not." Definitely was looking for her during the race.
We did not know who created that artwork. So that was Jenny?
Yes, that was Jenny who did that.
Oh, that's really cool. And
So,
what did you do when you saw it?
What did I do?
Any of you? Did you all?
We thought we were actually hallucinating. I'm like, there's a heart on the ground. Wait, it's got our team number.
So on that particular trail is when we were going. I'm going to call it the Corcovado. It was the big statue, the Christ statue, right, or the cross that was on top of the hill. After we left, I'm trying to think. La Pan, was it? Was that the name of the town?
El Pan.
El Pan. So yeah, we left that, and we had to do that big long climb. Well, Jen was there at the transition area, I think a day or two before us, and she had done that trek. And anticipating that we would go up that way, obviously, I think that was the only way you could go. But she had put that heart there, and she didn't tell me about it either, because I did see her at the transition, so it was a total surprise. And it was just put a big smile, and that was because the weather was nasty. It started raining on us, and it started getting cold, and then we're slogging up this hill, and you're just going like, will the fun ever end? And it's like, okay.
Right.
And then we see that it was just a motivator, So
a little beacon of light in
it was.
Yeah. So instead of going just linearly through the course, I want to hear maybe your highs and lows. So think about that for a second. But JD, I asked about your roles on the team. What was your role on the team, JD?
Loser.
Relief.
Team captain, and motivator and all that. And it's like Tom and Jesse were, nav primary, and you always got multiple nav, and then even Megan helped, and we just kind of split it up. Like, okay, here's your role early, but it's gonna, if it needs to, it can change.
Yeah. And
they all did amazing, pitched in with nav and towing and pushing, and it was like I was in the hurt locker for a long time in this race, physically, mentally, yeah. So I was just the captain, El Capitan.
Well, then since we've got you, and you just said you were in the Hurt Locker a lot of the time, what were your highs and lows?
Oh my God. That last night when it rained really hard, up on that mountain that we slogged up forever and all the false summits, because the Andes are like not like the Rockies, like right here. I know the peak is right there. You're at the top. And the Andes like, no, I feel wind. I see the horizon, the blue sky. Nope, false summit. And just keep going up all night. And I was um dry heaving. So I don't know if I don't know, stretched a rib or what, but I felt like my diaphragm was hyperextended. So like even the Kiwi girls, the team that had two girls on, they were one girl's puking. They gave me some crazy medicine I never heard of before. They're like, take one every 4 hours. They give me two. I'm like, I took two every 2 hours because I was just that cross. That was the highest fucking climb ever. Just that cross. But you're not done. Then you go a little traverse, then you're like up, up, up. So then it rained. That night we spent more energy than all 3 or 4 nights before. It was brutal. I'm hurling, we're slowing down, and then the mud stuck on our bikes. That's where Megan's skills as a Girl Scout came in, because Jesse tried to start a fire. He's like, it doesn't work like that, like the app on TV. And I just needed to sleep for an hour or whatever. I was imploding, and I was like, I'll keep going, but our pace was dying, and it was raining even harder. That Amazon rain. I had a brand new rain jacket, used one time, brand new, and it went completely soaked. And I think everyone else's jackets were like, "This is crazy." So
Well,
we found this
actually,
little guy's little man cave, little hooch, and it was off to the side, and teams couldn't really see us. We made a little fire. That was a godsend. And then fast forward the next day, we get through the mud, 1,800-meter drop down off this mountain, and it was so far down the valley. The lights looked like they're aircraft on a tarmac, but we're going so slow because of the mud. And the Ecuadorian team or Colombians, they're like,
no,
fuck
they were
this. They got a
Brazilian.
checkpoint and they come
The
back up, and
Brazilians.
they went all the way around, and we met them at the same time at 5 a.m, whatever, right by the school.
Wow.
That
And
was
you
like
both
the
chose to go a
high. That
different
was like
way.
the highest high and the lowest low for me, because Jesse saw me. He was in the back falling asleep, and I was like, fuck this. I threw my $9,000 mountain bike twice, almost off the mountain. I'm like, I'm done. And the second time I stepped off the edge, almost went down to the next switchback because I hit a hole. That was my I'm checking out.
Oh
And then
man.
we regrouped, and then yeah, that was the high and the low. Yeah, for me.
Well, a lot of times you hope that the whole team's not having a low at the same time.
You're right.
But
No,
that
yeah. Thank God,
that's
because
pretty
these guys were
frustrating.
all three of them had their wherewithal. They're all good. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit in the manger over here in the corner and die.
Yeah. Wow.
And we let the guy know in Spanish with they all,
and some
it took
cash.
some cash. Yeah, it was you can't write that script. It was like, yeah, good
Wow.
stuff.
So
Survival.
Meg,
It went to survival mode. It was
yeah,
like, fuck. Yeah. So we ended up just racing our race because, yeah,
it's that's the best way to handle it, I think.
right.
Megan, what was your high and low?
Um, so in terms of my low, there were a couple that one of them was right before the pack rafting. Just there was a lot of pressure because we were running behind, and we figured early on, like when we had some slowdowns in the second trek, we kind of figured that the things that they were going to cut out we wouldn't get to do were the ropes and the pack rafting. So we
Right.
were worried that we'd be pushed past that. And so when we got there and we ran into this lady who was at a village, one of the medical teams. We were like, oh, they're like, okay, well, just up ahead, the pack rafting. We're like, wait a minute, we can still do the pack rafting? And she's like, yeah, they're waiting for you. And we're like, in the ropes? And she's like, yeah, they're waiting. You go. Come on, go, go, go. We're like, oh my God. So then it was a rush to get there, and kind of just when we got there, everything, you know how that is, Gumby, right? It's time for some Gumby, but because everything had changed. All of our plans had changed. The trek had changed. The path had changed. So what we were packing for food wise was different. Um, and of course, a yard sailed, and we had two big pack rafts to load and get ready to go. And we were in a rush because we have to be on the water by a certain time. So it became really overwhelming for me. And got through that, and the rafting was really fun. That 4K portage.
Oh my God.
That was rough. It was hot.
Yeah.
I was feeling pretty good during the portage, so I was able to do like run ahead. But when we got to the bottom where we were like trying to put the pack raft in, and we find the right trail, we get down there, and the guys go, "Hey guys, good job, you found the right path, but you can't put in here. You have to put in over here." I was just like, "Oh my God!" We had been hauling our stuff down, and of course we didn't deflate the pack rafts, which is fine. It just made it a lot more difficult. And so we're trying to move this stuff, and JD and Tom and we're moving, and I had like the paddles in my backpack, and I turned around real fast, and JD was right behind me, and I smacked him
Oh,
hard
no.
across the
Block
face.
me.
I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And then I just started bawling. I was like, "Oh my God, he's gonna be so mad at me." And like Jesse's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Can you just check on JD because I think you're tired and everything." And then I
Like
tried to
safety
kill us.
third.
Safety third.
I tried to kill us one other time on the pack raft. It was Tom that time, because he and I worked in opposition to each other during a rapid and went up on a rock instead of around a rock. But yeah, so we made it through that. That time was a little rough. There was just a lot of emotions, but then the other time was when we were riding after the school. Unfortunately, one of the times we were riding on the road trying to get back to Cuenca, we were on a fairly busy highway, and there were
Freaking Mad
throughout this
Max
whole
highway.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Mad Max highway, yeah, because 3 cars riding side by side coming towards you on a 2-lane road. That was yeah,
Uphill.
something else. But there were 2 dogs running on the opposite side of the road
Oh.
as we were riding, and
Oh.
it was just one of them decided to dare the traffic, and he didn't make it
Oh.
across, and that was just I lost it. Like I just
Uh,
started. It was just like the sound and everything, and so that sucked because it was the last day, and Jesse's behind me, and he's like, "Just keep riding, don't look back, just keep riding." And I mean, that's
oh.
like I cried that whole road. we I
Mm.
we got to the end, and we stopped at a place to stop, and then
Water.
and we
Yep.
got to and Ty was like, "I thank you, Tom," because he's like, yeah, open his arms, and I just collapsed. I was just so upset about all of that. And I mean, it happens, like, but Jesse's right. Like, it could have been way worse. And it was just a definitely eye opener of how dangerous this can sometimes be. But my high was this wonderful moment when we got to, well, one, that we got to find out we're going to get still do the ropes. And then we get up there and Tom and JD said, "Hey, you and Jesse go do the ropes." The ropes themselves, like the rappel, that whole portion, the rappel, the canyon part, and then the ascension, it was by far my favorite part of that entire race. But the moment that was really stood out to me was like, and was heartwarming, was like the fact that Tom and JD were like, "No, you guys go. Like, we've done this before." Like, I mean, I'm definitely not the strongest one in the group, especially, but at that point it was, yeah, it was just the most glorious thing. It's such a cool moment of, you know, teamwork and friendship and, awesome. So that was my high.
That is super
Yeah.
cool.
It's good.
We talked a little bit about that too, how it'd be so difficult to pick which two would go if we had to choose. And that is really admirable, Tom and JD. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was
So
really fun.
maybe we'll go to Tom next. What was your high and low?
Oh, my, you know,
He's high all the time.
I know.
You know those pilots.
I don't know. I don't know if this race really gave me like a super high or super low, except that I don't know. I like the struggle, and even though JD was saying that the pedaling up that hill, of course, it was never ending. It was like up and up and up and more, fall summits and so on. I mean, I kind of enjoyed that pedaling through the night. And on the map, if you look at it, and I have to make a picture of it, but but it was either hallucinating or whatever it was, but I could see this man's face on the map.
Oh yeah,
And it was,
was
and it
great.
described
yeah.
how we all felt. And it was like this grimacing, screaming guy. And it was like, I go, hey, Jesse, look at this. Look at, and JD, and I'm pointing this out, and I go, this is how I feel. This is it.
Yeah.
And anyway, and it was cool because, sharing the nav, and at that point, Jesse was kind of checked out. Jesse did an amazing amount of extracurricular work, pulling people in
Yes,
with, on the bike and whatever. And
Yeah.
and he goes, well, where are we? And I said, oh, we're on the upper lip. And he looks, he goes, oh, I know exactly where we are now. So it was,
And this is how we all feel. Exactly.
Yeah.
oh, I know.
Yeah.
And Megan and I are in the background going, they're really not hallucinating. They're on the same page. And I see what they see on the map is like literally like almost like an SNL skit. Like, look at the face. We're going up this lip right now.
Yes, it was.
We are going to have to pull our maps out
Yeah,
and
we're
see if
gonna
we
look
can
back.
see that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It is hilarious. I would say my low would be the mud. Unfortunately, it seems like in every race, and I could be totally wrong, but because I've never been like number one in one of these expedition races, but it seems like those guys get the super sunshine, the perfect weather, and they get the massages on the way through the transition areas and all that kind of stuff, and it's like the seas part and everything for the lead teams, where the guys in the back, they get the rain, they get the thunderstorm, they get the torments, they get the mudslides or whatever. Anyway, so we got caught in that rain, and then of course we get the mud, and we go into the finish, right? And we look at everybody else's bike and are going, oh, I got a little dust on the bike, no big deal. Well, ours are just covered in this mud, and we can't even move them. We're carrying, it was like we're carrying as two bikes like through the mud to just try to get to somewhere. So I would say that would be my low. That was just like, I look
Tom's
at it,
like cussing. He's like, fucking Fiji mud, fucking South Dakota Primal Quest mud. Now it's Ecuadorian mud. I can't get away from this mud. Can I get a break? And then he literally got a break because his front brake blew out.
Oh yeah,
on a worst part down the hill, it literally the whole hydraulics squirted out, and so he had to go Flintstone mode off 1,800 meters of that mountain. So that night we spent more energy. So he got a break already.
About the brake problem. What happened with the brakes?
Yeah. So anyway, I went to go hit the front brakes at one point, and all of a sudden it just, I get like 2 or 3 squeezes, and all of a sudden it's nothing. And I'm going like, oh, what the hell?
Mayday, mayday.
I look down, and there's just like fluid just spraying out of the caliper. I'm going like, oh, this is not good.
You're like, Tom's like, what next?
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm looking at these guys. I'm going, is this all you got? Anyway, so
lightning bolt.
Yeah, just fast break going down these switchbacks and whatever. And if it was dry, that would have been some of the funnest single track riding that you could find probably in Ecuador. But because of the situation, because of the mud and other things, for example, Jesse almost killing himself and going off the edge.
Oh my God.
I almost got impaled. I was going underneath this tree. And
tree. Yeah.
There was a branch that had grabbed my pack and almost just yanked me right off the bike. It stopped me dead. And I was like, well, thank God it wasn't dead, but it stopped me cold.
And it was pointing like right here, like it caught his back like right here. So if he had ridden into it,
oh my God.
Yeah.
I was not sure what I was walking up on when he was needing help.
Same trail.
It's like,
I know. I've got a stick sticking out of my face, and I turn around and go, Megan, do I have something on my face?
Am I a unicorn now? Is this a unicorn? And then Jesse rolls up, and then Jesse comes up from behind because he's falling asleep, and he goes, dude, I just fell off the mountain and I heard some crackling. I'm upside down. I'm like, oh, I'm in the fucking branches are actually holding me off. And I'm like, I should probably move before this gives away. Something like that, right, Jesse?
Yeah. One of those, we're in those troughs, those like slip mud troughs where you can't really correct. So whatever. I went over my handlebars, landed gently on my pack. I'm laying there looking up at the sky like, oh, here we are again. And then I
Fucking
heard
mud.
this sound like a rain stick, when you turn them upside down, it's just like, and I'm like trying to process. I'm so tired. I'm like, there's not raining now. It's not like what could possibly making it. Well, I was laying between two bushes that had their branches together and they were slowly separating. And
Oh,
my head was getting lower than my feet, which were up on the trail. And I just very carefully looked over my shoulder and I looked, I don't know, it could have been a million feet. I'd say 20 feet down to the switchback below. I was just over thin air. I was like, oh, this is not good. This went from very comfortable to uncomfortable. So like slowly started reaching forward and grabbed onto some sticks and brush and stuff and then managed to roll myself out. But then I caught up to the team and they're like dealing with like Tom getting ripped off his bike by, sticks. And I'm like, what are you doing? You pooping again? Because Montezuma's Revenge. And I was like, oh no, I just had a moment here.
A moment.
Yeah, I
oh
know.
my goodness. How crazy.
That night was cray cray.
Diablo Mountain.
It was
Yeah,
Diablo
Diablo Mountain.
So, just one more question I had about the brakes. What did you do about the brakes? Why do you think that happened also?
Oh, well, come to find out, it was like it had sheared off one of my brake pads, and so then I was metal on metal on the
Yep.
rotor, and yeah, it just let go. I mean, whatever pad
Overheated.
managed.
You could smell our
Well,
brakes.
Well, yeah, you could smell the brakes. Yeah, I mean, we weren't going slow down some of those road hills that we were riding earlier in the day.
And how did you fix it? Or did you
I
just
did.
go without it?
No, I just went without it.
And it was your
Unhooked.
front or your back brake?
It was the front brake that went. So I had I would almost rather have the front brake on road,
Yep.
but it was so I had just the back brake. And after we left the school, it was a really steep downhill to get kind of down to the town. And I walked some of that really steep stuff because otherwise, I could actually walk probably faster than I should have rode, just in case my back brake did give out. Then
Yeah.
then I would have nothing. I mean, so
Mhm.
Which, by the way, when
I
we
would
took our
imagine.
bikes to the shop afterwards, they sent Tom a photo of his remaining single back brake pad, which was down to
Metal.
10% on one side and the other side gone. So like
Wow.
Yeah.
he's hanging on by a thread.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
That's
There's a few
scary
hills
stuff.
in Ecuador.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that bike ride pretty well, and I suspect that Chip got got impaled by the same branch. I think that might be the one where
Well, I think
you
it impaled, but there was a branch that was like, right
Yes.
forehead
I think it
level.
was a tree,
Yeah.
a log. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And I
hard in
had
the
my
tree.
we were out there while it was sunny, and so I had my ball cap on, and so I didn't see it coming, and it just hit, and it hit me right in my headlamp, and it pulled my head
Yep.
way back, and I kind of wobbled and ran into a tree, but I didn't fall over because I hit the tree pretty solid. And then I was like worried about them coming behind me because Dave was like right on my ass, and I was like, oh my God, he is gonna kill himself. So I was like, stop, 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 and I'm still tasting pennies
Yeah.
in my mouth, and
Yeah.
still got birdies flying around, and it was like, this is not safe. So we
That's
hung out.
that's
I
the
had
same.
It probably was the same one.
it
It
probably
has to be
was.
the same one
I don't know if
because
you were there
after the race
before or
we
after
ran
us.
into
We hung.
yes, another team, French or Canadian, somebody else hit it too, and the guy paid the price.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
had one of them had like
Oh yeah.
his sleeping pad or something up and on his bag and he hit it.
Mhm.
Tripped him off. Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
we
much
hung
for trail clearing.
remember
Yeah.
I had like before the race, I had bought like 10,000 meters of paracord, and so I had some extra, and so we hung a piece of
Chips
paracord.
Ecuadorian hardware store.
Exactly. And then we had like food bags, and I like hung a couple food bags on there, and that way anybody coming along would be like, "What the hell is that?" And then hopefully they didn't hit their head. But I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
That was a dangerous trail.
But
Yeah.
Tom, did we get your high? Or your high was when you recognized the face on the map?
Yeah, I think that was
He was
it.
high.
I mean, the race itself was overall just fun. I mean, as far as me pinpointing one place where I was ecstatic and high. I mean, I couldn't really do that except walking into a TA and seeing Jenny's face, and then that was actually
Oh, there you go.
that would make it.
That's sweet.
Know.
All
Yeah.
right, Jesse, we're around to you now. What's your high and low?
Oh boy, well, it's been evolving as this conversation has happened. Um, yeah, I'd say for me the low. There was one point. I think I was doing some bike towing at the time, and my right knee, like this was like probably day 4, started getting a little bit sore, and I had a personal like low and maybe a pity party where I'm like, I don't I don't think I'm going to be able to keep towing, and I'm not going to be able to support my team in the way that I need to, um. And then, so I like requested to come off tow, which, that was the first of like, hey, I can't tow for a little bit. Um, but then what resulted in that was, my teammates really pulling together and almost getting stronger over the next sort of day and a half. And that allowed me to recover. I got, some Voltaren from Nick at a TA and wrapped my knee. And then it was fine after that. I just needed like a little bit of reprieve. But in that moment, I kind of had that kind of like, oh, is this where my body's going to fail? And, or, where does this lead after that? But it was fine. Um, my highs, so many highs, but the biggest one was all the little moments where we got to realize that as a team we were going to be able to continue on. So one of the things as being kind of towards the back of the pack, there are these sweep crews that are coming along clearing different parts of the courses. And like my nightmare situation was one of these guys is going to tap us on the shoulder and say, "All right, you're done." But
Hmm.
but the race organization, they did a great job of making alternate courses to allow us to continue. Like we put all this training and time and dreaming into this thing and it made it here against all odds. And we got to continue on and continue to race and then, meet our biggest goal, which was all 4 of us made it across the finish line together after 5.5 days of racing. I mean, it was just the biggest of highs.
That's
And then I
First
didn't
time
want it to be
racing
over.
together too.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's hard for a team in an expedition race that's never raced together to get through all the highs and lows like a roller coaster. And I kept telling early on before the racing started, like the analogy is we're going around the track and here's a hurdle and another hurdle. The logistics, the cargo, the bike is like hurdle, pre-race. We're already racing. We're just dealing with like what's next. That's all you got. And then you start the race and there's never a perfect race. But we made it happen and we finished as 4. So we're so grateful for these guys and that.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys were all really supportive of each other. I would even say non-judgmental. Like I didn't hear any judgment from any of you, having to deal with anyone's specific problems. I think that's really key to having a successful team. What do you think was the key to your success?
I mean, I am going to say one thing, maybe about how much money Jesse left just laying on the trail,
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Am I missing something?
I'm
Well,
feeling a little bad for any Ecuadorians
Well,
having to walk past.
Are you sitting down? No, yeah, there we go. There we go.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll just say it. At some point, I ran out of toilet paper because Montezuma was revenging me, and then I ran out of wet wipes, and then I ran out of everything else. And then, in one emergency moment, I kind of realized I had my fanny pack with dollar bills, and so I started skinning ones, and that
wow.
became the price of a really good piece of toilet paper that you could use at least with 3 folds.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's some
Yeah.
expensive toilet paper.
Right?
I
So
mean,
some kid after the Amazon rain the next day is like score.
Yeah, I know.
So I guess you
Ooh,
had
look,
already
mine's.
offered to buy wet wipes from your teammates.
look, those are a hot commodity, and I think they were waiting for me to run out of ones to get to the 5s, and then we were
Yes.
be
And then they would
negotiating.
start
Exactly
selling them.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You figured it out, Jesse.
Oh.
Dang it.
Well,
He's like,
have been there before. I think I have been in the situation where I was tearing a wet wipe in half to use because I was going to run out. Oh, it's the worst
Or
feeling.
no, you told me a story where Chip's like just one square. That's all you get, Andrea.
Oh,
One
Like,
square.
yeah.
That was like last Ecuador race. Yeah, one square. Like,
okay, so I think my question was like, what made your team successful? And I would
oh
venture
yeah,
to guess, judging by Megan's response, you need a little humor, right? Like, I imagine you
humor.
guys did quite a lot of laughing, even though maybe not all the time. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, we know that JD is a human syringe of positive mental attitude, even in from the hurt locker. And so I know, at least for me, I could just watch him in the state that he was in and be like, fuck, if this guy's still soldiering on, taking one step in front of the other, like there's nothing that we can't do as a team together. And I think everybody on this team, Megan, Tom, JD, and myself, we really had this
synergy.
there's no quit at all under discussion. It was just like it's gonna happen. We don't always know how, but we all realized that we had a part to play in that. And synergy is a good word. Like it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like we had our disagreements. Like Tom and I got into it, in Trek 2 in the middle of the night over some navigation as we're trying to figure out how to navigate as a team without, you know, beating up each other's egos for who's doing what. And but I think we did that with respect and came out much stronger on the other side as a functional, navigational team. So
Camaraderie. Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me, was it harder to manage sleep, nutrition, or altitude?
Ooh.
Anyone want to answer that one?
For me, it was the nutrition. I felt like we slept just fine when we needed to sleep. In fact, we got a lot of sleep towards the end of the race in a nice, comfy hostel bed. It was a whole 4 hours there. But for me, the nutrition, the eating, I brought all these really nice lightweight Mountain House because, of course, the embargo, you can bring your food over, and I wasn't sure what was going to be available. So I brought these great Mountain House meals, and the first one I made was lasagna, and I made it right into the going into the first trek. And I was waiting. It started off a little rough because I put it in the top of my pack, and I got this wonderful hug from Andrea, and she squirted lasagna all down my back. So
Oh,
Wow.
I ended up there. Um, but it was just like I carried that thing with me for a couple of days trying to eat it, and I just couldn't eat it. Like I really didn't want to. And pretty much at every TA, it was great. The locals were making food, and you could buy it. Almost always a plate of rice and chicken, and
Yep.
just what would appear on my plate was the chicken that I realized how much of a first world yuppie I apparently am because the first time a chicken foot appeared on my plate, I was just like, no, I'm good. I can't do it. And I just had a really hard time. I mean, I did a lot of liquid nutrition, which saved my butt because I carried a lot of that. And that was wonderful. That kept me going for the majority of it. But eating itself, I just didn't really want to eat those big meals that are like super energy boosting. And so I bought these Mountain House meals and I didn't, I think I ate one macaroni and cheese one.
Yeah.
That was the only one that I was able to kind of get down all of. I ate maybe half of a scrambled egg one.
wow.
It was a ton of calories that I brought and I just couldn't make myself eat it. So I went through all my other food, and fortunately, we had a lot of stops where we could buy snack food, which is great because
Yeah.
we got a lot of that. Um,
So
That's
what
so crazy
liquid
because I never.
nutrition did you use most?
I used mostly the 4 Hour Fuel,
Okay.
which I trained with some of that at home as well and used it in Alaska. Well, I didn't use it in Alaska because it didn't arrive because my luggage didn't make it, but I used it during nationals. And then mixed in scratch. So I didn't actually bring any tailwinds with me because I brought so much of the other food, but I bought some scratch lab stuff before
Mhm.
um, before the race because I was getting a little worried about having enough electrolytes. And but yeah, I did. I mostly the 4-hour fuel.
Yeah, JD, were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I didn't see her eat one Mountain House. I don't remember you eating any Mountain House.
I
Like
tried.
just drinking and eating, like whatever Scooby snacks.
Megan had 10 to 15 pounds of additional nutrition in her pack at all
That
times.
bag between her legs on the pack raft. Remember when we picked that up, Tom?
Yes.
Like, what is this?
That
It's
was
like
all the
it's like
4-hour fuel.
randomness.
Yeah.
It's like it's my Girl Scout safety kit.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
But I didn't run out of that.
yeah. I would say that was one thing that just knowing that, okay, both Jesse and Megan, they hadn't really done these long races like that, and I knew it was a learning experience, right? And
Yeah.
so you just go, okay, JD and I both offered as much as we could as far as what to bring and so on, but and also like trusting your other teammates, right, to have that additional meal if you really need it or something.
Yeah.
And
we always had it.
we had, yeah, I know. We had these conversations, but a lot of the stuff just kind of, it didn't quite catch up with the team yet. So in other words, Megan had way too much food in there. We actually slept way too much. We stopped way too much. Yeah. And it was just, but again, I looked at it, I was like, well, okay, you guys have to learn. You have to learn this by doing. And that's kind of the only way. And it was our first time as a team as well. So, I just kind of looked at it and said, well, all right.
What did you think was hardest to manage? Nutrition, sleep, or altitude?
Oh, the stopping.
That wasn't one of the choices.
I know.
Choices.
Okay, I'm gonna say
wasn't
sleep.
one of the choices.
I'm gonna say sleep. Then it was we as adventure racers, as competitive racers, we slept way too much, and we should have.
Oh yeah.
We should have kept going more, pushed ourselves more as far as into the no sleep zone. But we didn't, which, okay, it is what it is. But objectively, you look at it and we slept way too much. And I don't think altitude really affected any of us adversely. I don't believe so. I think we all had enough time to really kind of acclimate.
Yeah.
What was the other thing you said? Okay, sleep and food.
Nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition wasn't a problem at all. I mean, yeah, we had meals along the way. I mean, chicken and rice and whatever. I mean, we had some good meals. But I would say one of the things that, assuming we did this next year, for example, that would be one of the things that I would harp on and say, okay, we need to work on this sleep and stop stuff.
Yeah. Right. So JD, how much did you sleep and how did you decide when you needed to sleep?
Well, we talked about it like in the conference calls leading up to the race, and then even pre-race while we're in country. And you got this great plan. Okay, we'll go 30 to 40 hours first, and then sleep an hour and a half or whatever. And by the time we got off to the 12, 13-hour mountain bike trek, or stage one, we get at that TA right at dark, and then we do that mountain trek at night, and then we went like. So yeah. I don't know, 1:30 circadian rhythm. I talked about that, right? Like when it's like 3 or 4 in the morning when your circadian rhythm, whatever. So we slept. Found a spot next to this trail that the Ecuadorian engineers have no idea what a switchback is. They're just VFR direct. Like there's a trail, go up that tree route. Yeah. So we slept on this little tiny grassy area for like, I don't know. We said an hour, but it's always like an hour, 15, hour 20. That was the first night, but that was already probably, let's see, if we start at 7 in the morning, 7 at night. I don't know. It might have been less than
21 hours.
20 something hours into the race, but we needed that because we're like ping ponging all over the map because, the map. Oh, there's a creek on the map. Well, that's not on the map. So we did a reset there, and then that really helped us because then that's the day where he climbed up to like 11,700 feet, and then he dropped to the west side of the Andes, and all of a sudden that freaking Amazon heat hits you. on that hard ass road, the white road. Yeah, that helped us. And then after that, it was just like we're so not in the front pack that we just started racing our own race, and then we picked up more sleep from there.
Yeah, the next sleep we had was in a little town where they
Yeah.
opened up the church for us in
Oh yeah.
Ballot. So we got a 2 hour nap
Oh, that was
early.
a high point.
That was actually very nice.
Yeah.
The church.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they
Yeah.
brought out the cots.
Yeah,
We had that really awesome
pad.
meal with the fried egg and the
That was
avocado.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
we
was-
missed out on that.
hmm
Yeah,
So-
the power was out in that town, and
Oh yeah.
we had to
Power's out.
we had to kind of find our way to this lady's little, it looked like a little house or whatever, but there was probably 2 tables in there, and there was another team in there eating as well. And she said, what do you want? You want food or food? And we're like, we'll take food. And it included
Food.
chicken and eggs and whatever. And I don't know.
Comida.
But yeah. So anyway, but it was delicious. And then they offered us to sleep on these pads in this church, and it was like, oh my god,
That was the best.
that was
How
That
could
was
you pass that up?
That was San something, San something,
Miguel.
San Miguel.
San Miguel.
Oh my God, that was the best. Yeah,
Yeah, that was our first long sleep. That was when we slept for 2 hours on that one. And
we felt
like,
so energized. Yeah.
yeah, that was
I
really,
love it.
really
Only in adventure racing, that was our first long sleep.
And it was
2
still
hours.
only
Okay.
2 hours.
Yeah, you're 2 days into a race or something. Oh, we slept 2
Yeah.
hours. That was our long sleep. Um,
Yeah.
so I got a quick question, and we left this out of when we were doing the podcast, and I felt bad about it afterward. What did you guys think about the views and the scenery and the landscapes? I mean, was that not amazing?
right.
Oh my God.
Jesse needs to answer
Yeah.
that. And if you
Dude, I was just gonna say
listening, you just-
the whole time Jesse's like, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, look at this. I'm like, are you looking at the map? Look at the view. Like Tom's like, I see a face. Like, no, look at these views. So of course I'm the guy taking the photos, and Megan's just keeping us all in line. Yeah.
It's just so big. It's hard to, if you spend most of your time on the East Coast of the US or even in the Rockies, like going to the
Right.
Evergreen Andes, it's just a whole different scale. That
Super grande.
man.
Yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
Super grande.
Super grande. Yeah, and the other thing I thought that was really interesting was that, there's not a lot of flat in Ecuador, right? Especially in
Oh
different
my
countries.
God.
And so all the agriculture's on the side of a mountain that seemed to be a 45-degree angle, and they don't have tractors and stuff. They're farming extremely steep terrain by hand, and it's everywhere. It's like just a whole side of a mountain is just farmland with cows and
We
It's
actually
funny,
had,
Chip. Yeah, Chip. It's funny you mentioned that because we had this conversation, I think, during the race. Remember, like, look at that. There's cows on a 45-degree angle. That would never happen in America.
It
And
was
they're
a
like, there's a
unicorn.
fresh plowed field. Like, how did they do that? And I'm like, it's got to be by hand. And then, I don't know, next day we saw some people by hand. Yeah, it's so steep. Yeah.
just
it's
watching
like-
the people doing the road work, like on some of the like the biking, and they were all like everybody out there, like the whole town was out there working on the roads, moving rocks and hauling dirt, and just to keep up with the washouts and stuff like that. But it was, yeah, that was
and
crazy.
they were, a lot of the people that we passed were indigenous. I mean, this
Yes.
is not like, I think some of them even didn't speak Spanish. It was like one of those, like they had a very similar dress, clothes that they wore. They had a different look than the people that are in the city. And I felt like we were really lucky to be going through such remote areas where there's just their civilization is like, there might not be power here or running water, but these guys are living off the land and cultivating agriculture on a 45-degree slope, and they're just happy, and they waved at us. They're super nice. And so I don't know, just Ecuador is an amazing country.
Really
And,
cool.
we're really fortunate to have had 6 days to see it from that perspective.
That's one thing about adventure racing that gives me the most joy, is going places where you would never think that you would be going, right? And in other words, you can't open up a brochure and say, well, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to be at this place in the middle of the God knows where, nowhere, at midnight with a compass and a map or whatever. You just can't pay for that. right? You have to actually, and you have to put yourself there, and you put yourself there doing these races. I mean, I've seen the most amazing sunrises and sunsets and thunderstorms and cross rivers, and been put in situations where I go, you got to be kidding me. I'm actually paying somebody to do this, number one. but you are there, right? You're immersed in this event, or
Not normal sport where the tourists don't go.
yeah.
I was gonna say there were definitely some roads where those tour buses would never have made it. You know, walking along that when we were headed to San Miguel, and so and there was a washout, and the trail to get there was like this big, and then it was I don't know 100 feet down to the riverside. I mean, and just thinking about just that, hey, if you wanted to travel this road and go visit your family who lived in this town, this is what you do. This is how you get there.
Oh, and by the
Megan,
way, we passed a volunteer that was in a tent, like just not too far back.
yeah.
She's like, it could be. You're like, yeah, 20 trace. There we are. So,
Like, okay.
and she goes, y'all look good? Yeah, good. Okay. That was funny.
So
Oh, and then the motorcycles, and how many different like motorcycles being the main mode of transportation. There was definitely a guessing game going on for a while. I was like, okay, we see the motorcycle. How many people are on the motorcycle behind the driver?
Yeah, right.
Is it going to be
Because
two?
it morphed from remember slug bug in the U.S. slug bug? Well, we turned an Ecuadorian motorcycle. Okay, there's 2. No, there's 3. No, damn, there's 5. There's a whole family on that bike.
Yeah, that was
No
great.
helmets.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, the trucks too. Some of the pickup trucks we saw had maybe 20 people in the back of the
That the
pickup.
farm workers get off and there's like 25 of them stacked in there like vertical sardines.
Yeah,
Yeah, those guys. Like,
exactly.
well, beats walking. It beats walking.
It's an amazing thing to witness that sort of thing firsthand. It's such a cool thing about adventure racing.
Just
Yeah,
even the school that we were at, like that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Andrea,
That's
but
okay.
like that school that we were at, that
Oh,
we
yeah,
stopped at the
yeah.
bottom. That was really cool. Yeah.
Megan woke us up twice. We're sleeping so hard.
She
Hey,
pulled
students will be
the
here. You
teacher
got to get
card
out of
on
this
us.
I was
classroom.
like,
Said,
you
okay,
cannot sleep
class,
here. There's
get
kids.
out
There's
of
I
here.
found an unlocked classroom. Like all the other teams are sleeping out on the tarmac. I'm like, I found an unlocked classroom. Like, we got like 30 minutes. Like, Megan, I'm like, fuck, what day is it? It's like, you got to go. The students are going to be here in 30 minutes. And then we move out like 30 yards. Like, you got to go again. I'm like, oh my God, this school.
Well, because we were like,
And then I look
seriously,
over
the
my
kids started
shoulder,
showing
and
up.
sure enough, at 7:30, they're like 2 kids looking at me like, Gringo, where'd this guy come from?
I know.
These
Well, yeah. So the English teacher actually, with her students, came up to me. Those guys actually left. She comes up to me and she wants to speak English, right? And I'm like, what are you doing here? So I explained that to her, and she just was all happy, and all the students are just taking it in. It's funny.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Definitely wrecked their outdoor sink with the mud. And so Jesse and I were back there frantically trying to get all the mud out of the sink and rinse off the sidewalk.
right.
We were trying to recuperate the bikes a little bit before we headed down. It was, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that seems like a once in a lifetime experience for sure.
As a teacher, she's like, you got to go. I'm like, can I just sleep? I'm like,
You
no.
cannot be in here when the
She
kids
pulls
come
out the
in.
ruler. Megan pulls out the ruler and starts.
Megan broke. Yeah. Dude, she kept us in line. She's like, you guys got to go. Her watch, she never missed a fucking alarm. We're all like, snooze. Like, got to go, guys. Got to go.
You need someone like that on the team. You
Yeah.
need that.
You
know, that makes a good team. You all have your own things.
You
that you're
do.
good at.
I'm like, she's like the military mom. Like, let's go, guys. Be on time, on target.
I'm going to send you a recording of me for Christmas. It's just, hey guys, time to wake up. Time to get going.
Oh, perfect.
Didn't I
Like a
say that was the
ringtone.
one thing I didn't want to hear? Like, I think when we got back to the flat, right? It was just
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't want to hear Megan saying, guys, time to get up.
Guys.
Yeah.
Well, I find myself still dreaming, even now, of that I'm still racing in Ecuador.
Oh, so
Wow.
much.
And still
Wow.
pushing my bike up the mountain in my sleep. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, it affects you in strange ways. But I want to make sure that if anyone's listening who's thinking about doing a big race and they're not sure and they don't have teammates, what advice would you give them? Go ahead, JD. What advice would you give someone who wants to be like you?
So, like a big race, anything over 3 days, whether it's local or international, I just like you have to, especially in the pro category, co-ed teams of four, you got to find the right team members. You have to have a good super mix from different backgrounds and try to train together earlier or even get to know each other. And then, you can't do that, then you just, it's like a poker hand, right? Not 7 cards draw where you get a draw. So it's a 5-card stud. Here's your hand, but it's down to 4. And you got to make that hand work and deal with all the variables that pop up. There's because Murphy's Law, if it can happen, it will happen. And you got to get over those hurdles and just be prepared for that. Don't have this mindset where we're going to train hard. It'll be a perfect race. We show up, but all of our gear will be there and the airlines and humma. And no, you got to be prepared for that. So, yeah, be ready for Gumby.
Yeah. What about you, Tom? What advice do you have for someone who'd like to start doing longer, bigger races?
When I first got into it, I was like, I really wanted to be those top teams, and I really wanted to win. And it's that competitive edge, right? The competitive side of me. But then, as time goes on, I realized, okay, I'm more there for the experience. So, in other words, I guess it's the mindset that you have to take with you. That I guess tranquilo is the perfect word. Just relax and enjoy and take it in. Obviously we're working as hard as we can, but I would say that kind of and stuff goes wrong. Just stuff goes wrong.
Be ready
just
for
kind
it.
of have to deal with it and go, well, all right, how do we get unstuffed?
Right. So it's like you said, it's like the journey, and it's like the capital A in adventure. It's all about the adventure. We're not going to be on the podium, but we're not going to be last. And you make an experience out of it.
And it's really special, actually. Again, to Jesse's point, is crossing the finish line as a complete team. That's got to be one of the highlights of anybody's race, because it's so hard. Number one, even to find 4 people that do this,
right,
and they can race together, but also getting through all that crap and stuff and then making it through together. That's a huge accomplishment.
Sure is.
Yeah. You can just look at the team list. There's so many teams that they either lost a teammate or DNF'd or quit, or the fact that you guys all got across the finish line as a 4-person team, still friends, like that's like you're winning,
Yeah.
Megan, what's your advice, and maybe particularly to other women?
Oh man. So part of it is just go for it. It's kind of one of those things, like if you have an interest and you want to do it, especially as a woman, there's almost always a team looking for a female, which makes sometimes a little bit easier. Like, I could just not just walk on to Jesse's team, but it was the fact that opportunity was open and available for me, because I had wanted to race. It was a shared dream. I'd been wanting to race internationally for a while, and so to have that opportunity present itself to me, and then my answer was yes. It's kind of like I just say yes. I always have this fear of being the weakest person on the team. I don't want to be a bad teammate. I don't want to be that person who you just have to drag along the entire time. So my goal is always to be able to contribute. So for me, to feel more confident and comfortable, like it definitely helped getting a coach and getting more focused training, because I knew how to train for rucking and I knew how to train for endurance running, but I never really trained for multi-day expedition races. I usually just weekend warrior, power through and go.
Or paddling at night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paddling at night.
You should have seen her. You should have seen her eyes putting in, and Tom was behind her. Her eyes are like saucers. Like, wait, we're paddling at night, and there's a rapid right there. Like, she got over it.
We're good.
Yeah,
I
oh my
got over
God,
it.
pucker factor 20. Yeah.
You made it
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
My
but
eyes were like saucers before we got in past the
There it
water too.
is.
oh,
Exactly.
there's the face, the
See the lower
screaming.
lip and the nose. He's going like this.
Oh, if
see
you're
it?
only listening, you need to tune in on YouTube because we're seeing the map view of this
There's
face.
the
The
eye,
screaming face.
I can see it.
forehead.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Um,
and Jesse goes, "Where are we?" I go, "We're on the upper lip." He goes, "Oh, okay,
Oh,
I
right
see."
there.
yeah, right there.
There's the
Um,
face.
Going
All
up
right,
that
so
hill.
Megan, what were you saying?
oh, so I
Sorry.
just saying overall, just having just remembering that the don't quit attitude, right? Is
Right.
everybody's going to struggle and everybody's going to fail, and you will. And I think you even said this to me before. You're not always going to be the slowest person on your
Yep, I
team.
did. Yes.
And it's true. Like there were times where I was
Aw.
able to be more supportive and like run ahead and find things and double check stuff. Um, and
Cool.
it was also, so I guess that's it. You're not always going to be the slowest person out there, and just have the experience. Like take the chance and go, because sometimes that's just the biggest thing, is just to take the leap and go and do it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
And have faith in yourself that you are not going to walk away.
Yeah.
Other
And you
than
can
as
rely
a
on your teammates,
yes, you can.
You can. It's okay
And
to do
they
that.
yeah, you can rely on them. They want you there, and they you will be able to give back in multiple ways to whatever they do for you.
Yeah. Jesse,
Amen.
you brought the team together. This was your baby. What advice do you have to other people that felt like you did at the beginning of this year?
I love that everything that's been said so far. It's, I also used a coach that helped give me a lot of confidence in my physical abilities for the race. I also, over the past year, have been part of an AR growth co-op, just some friends that we get together once a month and we talk about what are the things that make you a good teammate or that are good skills to work on, and what kind of a culture do you want to build in your team? So it's that. But shameless plug, I'd say go on YouTube and watch everything that This Ability has ever posted, because you've got a huge tome of inside look at what's happening in these races for years. And so it's, consume that, pay attention, read between the lines, and then go start. And as JD said, find good people that you want to go hang out with and maybe suffer a little bit with.
I was
And
say, be okay with being uncomfortable and be with people that like to be uncomfortable with you.
Get out of your comfort
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And so I guess one other thing now I guess we're coming up on the end of this, but one of the things I love about the big ARWS races, but specifically World Championships, is yes, you cross the finish line, that's amazing, the high fives, but the party has not yet to begin. Like the coming together, and yeah, there is some speechy stuff, but they always bring in the culture, and then eventually it moves to a restaurant, and eventually there's some cocktails and dancing. Like, what did you guys think about the ending of this whole World Championships experience? Did that blow your mind, being this is most of your first time doing the World Champs?
Um,
I'll go last because I got something to say. Yeah.
well, apparently we didn't stay out long enough, because even after we left the restaurant, I heard they moved on to a discotheque and were partying all night long. I ran into the Colombian team in the Cuenca airport. Got to play Uno with them for quite some time, and we
Oh,
traded leftover trail snacks as we waited for our
Nice.
airport. And they were talking about that some of them went out even later. But that was a lot of fun. Just dancing and having a good time. It was a crowded, crazy dinner mess, but it was overall, just real fun to be around, and you got to know some of these teams on the trail. And that's kind of a thing. Like a lot of these teams are from all over the world, so getting to be friends with them is going to be like on social media if you connect. Otherwise, you won't really get to see them, and you always kind of wonder how they did or how everything went as you guys pass each other or whatever, see run into each other on transition. So that was cool to get to spend that time and have some of those conversations at the end, and really just get to share those experiences. And that was cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
I think for me, the ending ceremonies were amazing, but the beginning, the ramp up. So if you have an opportunity to do a world champs and you can go a little bit early and be involved in
Yeah.
a group tour or go get some other cultural experiences, you sort of get to the race feeling like you've already won. You've already had a amazing not vacation, but you've gotten to experience this new world that you haven't been to before. I mean, like we had an adventure racing Thanksgiving dinner
Oh,
together.
that was great.
Just incredible with all these different teams and just getting to know everybody, that you're not going to see while you're racing, but everybody's still having a shared experience that you can kind of gel on before and after. It was really special.
Totally.
So Tom, how about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually, the closing ceremonies were great. We went up to the restaurant, and Jenny and I looked at each other and said, "Okay, I've seen this whole thing play out where nobody eats, and we were kind of hungry at that point, so we left." We left. We went and found our own food, and we spent the evening together, which was pretty awesome in its own right. So
Good for you.
Yep.
JD, you're last.
Oh God. So it was like the longest flag parade after a race forever. Like, are we still going? We're going. Then we get inside that theater. It was like, and then we'd like to thank the mayor, the price of rice in China, whatever, and all this stuff. And like people are falling asleep. It was like, oh my God, we got to go up there, like all this stuff. It was like, and then we still got to go out. It was like, oh my God. So by the time we get to that restaurant, I was like, woo! And then we're up, we wake up when we start doing our thing as a team, and some girls run around with tequila shots. I'm like, what team is she on? She was barely working there. And that's pretty much all I remember because next thing you know, I'm walking out and I met Silver from this team Estonia because I saw him in Africa at Worlds with his wife. And he's like, hey, come over here. Let's do a shot together. And next thing you know, I'm dancing with, I don't know, his wife and his wife's sister or something. And they are all dolled out in like their full Ecuadorian dress, like Heidi. I'm like, Megan and Tom was like they grab. Oh, Tom was gone. I was like, Megan just like, we gotta go. So like, we gotta go. Otherwise, I'd probably still be in the Cuenca.
Yes, yes.
That
Well,
was the end of the world's race. Yeah.
that restaurant that we finally
Oh,
got to, it was
yeah,
like a rooftop restaurant, and
yeah.
it
Killer
was,
views.
your view of the city lights, and then there was
The church.
fireworks too.
Yeah, there
Yep.
was that ceremony for, or that they had like the lighting ceremony for that one saint, and so they had
Yeah.
like
Oh,
luminaries in one whole
that guy.
square.
Accidental, great timing. But
Yeah,
we did make it to the second party at the next dance place,
That's right. Because
and
Lewis
I
woke up with a
regretted it.
cowboy hat. He's like, where did I get this hat from? I'm like,
Yep.
Well, we stayed about 15 minutes because at that point I was like, my feet cannot take this anymore.
you're,
I need to go. I mean,
yeah,
you didn't put up too
yeah.
much of a fight,
No,
but
I was gonna end up
like,
sleeping in the corner somewhere.
but
Yeah.
they were still dancing and living it up. Like, it's amazing. The
Yeah.
people could be, racing for as long as we were, and then just a couple days later have no effect. They're
Yeah.
having a blast.
I think it was the
So
team from
Amazing.
Paraguay were the ones that were the
they were,
main
they were
Oh
paddles.
yeah.
I don't know how much caffeine they were taking, but Paraguay was in the house.
they know how to party.
Dude,
Maybe
that's funny
Colombia
because
too.
our last night on the mountain where we're climbing that night from the Barksville from the dogs where the map was like the base. We climbed that road all night mountain biking, and we're with Paraguay, and then we're like this, and we're like this all night, and the next morning, and Alan's like, hey, and then he's like, I filmed us going down the backside finally downhill, and he's like, you got to send me that video because I'm like, we're going Mach 1 to
Yeah.
that village, and those guys like. And then we get to the bottom. Remember that Tom and the Jesse, and they're like, Alan at that last TA where Jen was at TA 5. And Alan goes, well, Paraguay team. He goes, well, we lost our tracker not once, twice.
twice.
So we're dequalified. So we're just going to follow the river down and take it easy instead of going over 2 mountain ranges. And Alan's like, so he's like, that's those guys. So that's why they're raging on next level.
I don't know. I love to hear all of those stories of what experience everyone else had. There's like a whole another world that exists around these races, and you get to hear little
Alan
pieces of
comes up
everyone's
like
experience.
in the middle of the night, and Alan's like, "Hey, this is JD," and like my new teammates like, "Oh, I saw him in Paraguay, no pants on, in some village, and doing shots over here and whatever." Like, oh God, that was Paraguay. Oh yeah, it was Paraguay. Yeah.
JD,
So-
everybody has seen you with no pants in some village every race. It's just
Okay.
Kids are raising their hands.
Guilty is charged, but they only saw a little bit during this race. Only
no.
during the fire. Yeah,
everything was.
I just dropped trout right in front of everybody with my ass in the fire.
Beluga.
They're like, is that spandex burning or is that JD's ass? Like, I don't know. I was so in the Hurt Locker, like fire.
He's just like bent over, spreading his cheeks.
Away from him, though. At least it's away from the school teacher.
Yeah, you're still friends. You're still laughing about it.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear your experience. Thanks for being on our podcast and sharing everything that you did. It was really fun being with you in Ecuador, and I hope you guys, have many more races to come.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Everyone else out there, thanks for listening. Did we thank enough people this time? Because I felt really like we were lacking that last time, but we didn't thank ARWS, Heidi Mueller.
Heidi.
Job. I think she represents the organization really well. And
thank you for the t-shirts. She got me the shirts from Worlds last year. That reminds me. So I have a couple of female shirts that in the bag that we like the drug deal months to happen. So, I can't fit them. So if anyone wants some female 2023 Africa ARWS shirts, I got them.
Then hit up JD.
I'll send you the sizes.
I'll send you the sizes. JD TV. If you're Facebook friends with him, if you're not, you
free FREE.
YouTube.
And also the media team. They did a really good
media team.
Yeah, they really captured the feeling of this race and
the media team.
And I know we were lucky to do some of the voiceovers and yada yada, but I really enjoy going back and watching the videos.
You can search through the photos by your team number, or you could put in a selfie of yourself.
Oh yeah,
and the photos would come up. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank
I know
you.
we're all feeling really grateful for the experience. So have a great one. Thanks for
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Yeah, see you next year.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please take a moment to leave a rating and a comment. To find additional content, including the video versions of these discussions, you can search for Disability Racing on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
We hope this podcast inspired you to focus on your abilities and plan your next adventure.
See you on the trail.